What up, everybody? Raising Kanan Season 4, Episode 5 began with a flashback scene showing Famous, his sister Jessica, and his mother leaving Baltimore and heading to New York. In this scene, we got our first look at Famous's father, who was first mentioned in Season 1, Episode 1 at Lamont's Diner. Jessica had just moved back to the South Side and told the Thomas family that she had been living with her father in Baltimore. The scene started off with Famous's father beating Famous, accusing him of stealing his money, when Miss Figueroa jumped in and took the beating for Sean. After Jessica brought Famous to his bedroom, later on his mother came in and told him they were leaving, before stabbing Famous's father in order to get away because Famous had to go back inside for his toy. But notice there was a female driver who picked up Famous and his family and brought them to Queens, where they ended up at a homeless shelter. I think this friend, or potentially even a family member, who picked up Famous and his family was none other than Angela Valdes's mother. Keep it in mind that Famous and his family are Puerto Rican, and so is Angela Valdes and her family. And Angela Valdes and her family lived on the south side Jamaica, Queens. And that's also where Famous and his family moved, because soon after they ended up in the homeless shelter that day, he had to have met Kanan, because they had been best friends since they were 5 years old. So there's a good chance that Angela Valdes's mother was friends with Famous's mother and could potentially even be sisters, because Valdes was definitely Angela's father's last name and not her mother's. So Angela's mother's maiden name could have been Figueroa. But at the same time, we don't know if Famous's mother was married to his dad before they ran off or not. And as far as Angela's mother's concerned, she was never shown in OG Power, and it was also never said what happened to her, either though she was in the picture during Angela's childhood, because at one point Ghost mentioned Angela's parents made her go to Cho, and Angela said her family moved to Sunnyside after she left for Cho. And it was definitely confirmed in Raising Kanan Season 2 that Famous does have other family out there other than just his immediate family, his mom, dad, and sister. Because after Famous's mother put him out the house, she put the word out to his whole family not to help him out. This lets us know that he potentially has family he turned to off screen, maybe the Valdes family. But when he asked them for help, they told him no, because his mother told them not to help him. Now here we are, Episode 5. Famous's dead body was found in an abandoned building under a mattress. And now that Famous is dead, we should see his funeral service in Episode 6, where we'll see his friends and family gather together to remember Famous. And at this funeral, we might even see Famous's dad, because either though he was abusive when Famous was young, he at least reconciled his relationship with Jessica, because like I said in Episode 1, she said she had been living with her father in Baltimore. But more importantly, at this funeral, we should see Famous's mother, Miss Figueroa's friends and family, and at that point, I think we'll be introduced to Angela Valdes and her family. In addition to the Valdes family, Kanan and Jukebox will also likely be at Famous's funeral. And at this funeral, I think Miss Figueroa will introduce Kanan to the Valdes family, or Kanan could probably introduce himself to Angela and her family, probably even introduce himself to Paul's, because she was older than Angela and was probably around the same age as Kanan. And because Jessica will also be in town for her brother's funeral, she could potentially be the one to introduce Kanan to the Valdes family, especially if Famous's mother is sisters with Angela's mother. She might be saying she wants to introduce Kanan to Famous and her cousins. And speaking of Famous potentially being cousins with Angela, his sister Jessica and Angela do look a lot alike. And now that Famous is dead, and after the funeral Jessica will have to go back to her job in LA, I think Angela's family will be around Miss Figueroa more now that she'll be all alone, to help comfort her and to help her with her grief. Adding Angela and the Valdes family into the Raising Kanan storyline little by little. and it would actually make sense for Angela to be introduced to the storyline before Ghost and Tommy, simply for the fact that she won't be around for very long before leaving the South Side for Choate in 1996. So if they don't introduce Angela into the storyline soon, there won't be much character development for a young Angela. With that said, keep it in mind, in episode 5, before Miss Figueroa knew that Famous was dead, she turned to Detective Garcia and was looking for answers about what happened to Sean. And at this point, Detective Garcia said that if anything happened to Famous, then she needs to be looking in the direction of Kanan Stark, because Kanan was a rough kid and did all kinds of bad things. And either though Kanan later met with Miss Figueroa and told her that Garcia was lying, Miss Figueroa is the type of woman who I can see later on ending up believing Garcia and having hatred for Kanan, especially when she finds out that a lot of what Garcia said was true and that Kanan is actually into a lot of bad things, either though that doesn't mean he had anything to do with Famous's murder. Then Famous's mother will begin to run her mouth on and on, over and over again to the Valdes family about Kanan Stark, that he was a gangster and a thug who either killed her son or who got her son killed. Keep it in mind, in OG Power, Pauls once said that Ghost used to play lookout for those gangsters. And one of those gangsters that Pauls was talking about was definitely Kanan Stark. Then also keeping in mind how much Angela's father hated Ghost, calling him a punk and a drug dealer. Could part of the reason why he had so much hatred for Ghost be because he knew that he was friends with Kanan Stark? And because Famous's mother had been talking about how such a bad kid Kanan Stark was, Mr. Valdes wanted to keep Angela away from that bad crew to make sure that she didn't end up like her cousin, Sean. And we know ultimately at the end of the day, she does die by the bullet. Then again, going back to Famous possibly being related to the Valdes family, Famous also kind of looks like Paul's son, Angela's nephew, Junior, who also died by the bullet. Then, after hearing throughout her whole childhood how Kanan Stark was a bad kid who got her cousin killed, 20-some years later, Tasha St. Patrick asked Angela, has she ever heard the name Kanan Stark? And at this time, Angela was finally able to get revenge for her cousin Sean, because they never showed Angela's answer to that question when Tasha asked her that. And I think her answer was yes, and that's why she agreed to help Tasha set up Kanan to die instead of helping Ghost set up Dre, because Tasha wasn't the only one who had an ulterior motive in framing Kanan. Angela did also. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.